This is London Real. I am Brian Rose. My guest today is... And the last time we were in this car, I was running to be mayor of London.
That's right.
Brian Rose is back!
Hi, I'm Brian Rose, and I plan to be your next mayor of London. London maybe doesn't deserve me anymore. And he said, never sell your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
You would try to pay Trump to say those words. It would cost you $100 million for that endorsement. He also said, I'm gonna fire Gary Gensler, the SEC chairman. We just got caught up in the greatest conspiracy theory ever. If you think that by relying on the government for a check and owning nothing, you're gonna be free, you're kidding yourself. You have money in a bank, you don't. The bank has custody of your money.
What is this conspiracy with the City of London?
I'm telling you, I'm a little worried, buddy, we're having this combo because...
All I can say is we would not kill ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
Brian Rose.
Brother?
How are you, my brother?
I'm great, and it's great to be back. I loved our last conversation, and I thought I'd have to come with new material and a new suit as well.
It's a gorgeous suit. It's a gorgeous suit.
It's my Bitcoin suit. I am orange pilling the world.
Yeah. You know, I tried to take you, to my guys here, but you're like, listen, I've got loyalties to my guys. I got...
I've been with my tailor like 6-7 years, and so for me, it's like a long-term relationship.
Yeah.
I'll definitely be open-minded to tailors in Dubai, but these are my guys, man. They take care of me.
There's a suit gang going on, rivalry right now,
bit,
you know?
A little bit. When you come to London, I'll introduce you, man. They're old
Please.
school. They're old school.
Yeah.
They do Dan Pena stuff, and they do royal family, all sorts of people. And they've been doing it for 50, 60 years.
Are we talking about Savile Row?
Yeah, Savile Row.
Yeah.
It's called Kent Haste, but the guys are old school, probably in their 60s and 70s, and they tell me stories like, I did a purple suit for Mick Jagger. They did all of Jack Nicholson's clothes as the Joker in the Batman movie. And so he tells you his stories from Bing Crosby to Arnold Schwarzenegger, and they always, they're great. They're like hustlers, but great suit makers.
Yeah.
It's fantastic.
Out of curiosity, how much does a suit like that cost?
Ooh, man. I don't know if I should answer that. What's that great line? If you have to ask how much, you can't afford it.
You can't afford it.
Yeah,
That's true.
I'll just say that.
Okay.
But it's well worth it,
Okay.
I would say, because I'll be wearing this the rest of my life. It fits beautifully. If ever I don't like the fit, I take it in. They take care of it.
Yeah.
With this suit, actually, I picked a different fabric, and it was really thick. And on my first fitting, I didn't say anything to him, but I was like, wow, this is really thick. And he said, I'm making you a new suit. That's it. He threw the other one away and got a thinner material and made the whole thing. He never asks for a penny more. He just knows he wants me to wear this for 20 years.
Damn.
Yeah, and he'll rip things off of it if it's not fitting right. This is like 10,000 stitches, all from scratch. So yeah.
What material is that?
I have to ask him, but I think
Okay.
it's sure like a cotton or a wool or something.
It feels like it does feel different.
Yeah, he wasn't sure about the color, but
That's you.
now it's happening, and it got a lot of attention in Dubai.
Of course.
Which is not an easy thing to do
Of
in the city of bling.
Yeah, exactly. This city, like everyone kind of stands out, right? Everyone stands out and with their fashion sense, but you'd be outdoing them with this in a good way. It's actually good to stand out here.
It is, and people dress well here. I really like it. People make an effort, even in the heat. Women do, men do. I like so many things about this city.
How are you dealing with the heat?
I was here last October, and so I knew it was going to be high 30s. And I was also here in January, February, I think, when we did our show. So I also know it cools off. Look, wearing a three-piece suit when it's 38 and humid takes commitment. And maybe that's good, though, because not many people are.
Yeah.
So I just roll with it. You got AC everywhere. And then when I walk out at night or during the day, I'm in different gear. And I just embrace it, man. I'm just grateful to be here. Love it.
Something I like about you, there's a lot I like about you. But something I like a lot about you is your discipline. Right? You are very, extremely disciplined. I see your stories every morning, no shirt, out running, doing your thing. Where does that come from?
For much of my life, I was out of control. And I was just subject to the whims of my brain that just wanted to feel good. And so I started drinking in high school. I was in a fraternity at MIT. I drank every day. And then I went to New York City, which is a party every night. And later I got into drugs, and it was just, I couldn't stop, that medicating myself. I've also always been super self-critical. Like, it's never good enough for Brian. that guy is never good enough. Oh, you won? You should have won bigger. Oh, you did something great today? What are you doing tomorrow? So that self-critical can be a blessing and a curse. But I think I used to drink to get away from him, even for a couple hours a night. And so I've been in that place. Now I'm over that. I'm 7 years sober this year. I now meditate every day. I have a crazy physical practice. And I'll tell you, buddy, I know that if I skip that one single day, I start going back into negative tendencies, nihilism, where I say, what's the point of this? Who cares? We're all going to die. What's the point? I don't like that guy. I hate that guy. He's negative and he's destructive, and I hate him, and he's never coming back again. So for me, I make sure I do all my disciplines because I want to be this guy that's super happy, attracts people and opportunities and wealth. And so I know if I stay disciplined, if I do that really hard cardio, if I meditate in the morning, if I fast through the day, if I do those things, then I'll be the guy that I want to be around. So that's why I do it, man. Maybe it's fear of the other guy coming back. And now it's just become so normal. If I don't do that training, after I do my training, man, I feel great. Nothing can stop me. And so I always just think, just put the work in and you're going to feel great afterwards. So that's why I do it. If that makes sense. You know?
Sounds like you're the hardest critic on yourself, then.
Oh, man, I am. And again, a blessing and a curse. I think I found a way to manage it now. And I always used to say when I got sober and started training, like, I'm my own drug dealer, except I got to pay for it in sweat. And that's what I do. So I go in and I put the work in, and then you have all the endorphins you want. It's free, but you have to pay for it. It's non-addictive, or at least it's addictive in a good way. So that's why I do that stuff.
When you go to a business meeting or when you have a situation, when you leave, do you obsessively critique yourself with everything that you said?
Interesting. You know, what I try to do in a meeting is I try to feel out the person. I want to see how motivated are they to do business with me. I want to see how credible are they, and I want to see if this is something I want to do. And I can quickly determine that, these days. And so if they really want to do business with me, and this is a great opportunity, I'm like, okay, there's something to do here, and I can start that negotiation, which usually means, okay, I'm going to see if we can get the best deal possible. I like to negotiate. I know Trump does as well, and that's what I do. I do it in lots of subtle ways. Sometimes lack of communication is a great negotiating skill. And so that's what I do. I try to say less, but yeah, I do critique myself. Sometimes I'll meet with some high-power people. I try not to be, the guy in the meeting. I'm not the aggressive, dominant guy. I try to build rapport. I try to ask questions and then just see if there's something there. That's what I do.
But do you beat yourself over do you beat yourself if you made a mistake and you think, oh, I shouldn't have said that, do you beat yourself afterwards? I want to know, how hard are you on yourself?
I'm more hard on myself for, like, where are my results? So what are my metrics like this month? How many views have I done? Have I done anything really cool this year? Have you pushed yourself? So, look, I think I might have a boxing match coming up for Crypto Fight Night in May. Nice. And so that's something I've always wanted to do because it's scary and it's going to be I don't even know what's going to happen. I could get hurt. And so it's like, okay, Brian, now you're pushing yourself. What else can you do that's going to put you way out there, but it'll have a huge payout? So that's kind of the way I judge myself and my metrics for revenues and views, and are we doing big, important things? Sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, what are you doing, bro? Like, this is BS. Like, you could be 10 times bigger or 100 times bigger. So that I kind of check myself, not as harsh as I used to be as well. So yeah, that's where I'm back and forth.
By the way, I love that you, when you go on your morning runs, you call that bridge the Gratitude Bridge.
Oh, yeah.
And I was on a boat yesterday, and we were going under it, and I was like, guys, that's the Gratitude Bridge. I was like, no, it's not, it's this bridge. I was like, no, Brian Rose said. So every time I see it now, I think of you.
That's nice. Well, where I stay at the Address Beach Resort, there's crazy traffic there sometimes at night. So my traffic hack was just to drop me off at Blue Water. It also means I get to walk across that bridge every night. And a lot of times I was just coming from a show I had done on London Real at our studio here in Dubai, or I've just come back from a conference, or I've just come back from a great night at the Palm with some friends. And so, yeah, I'm in this vlog mode where I try to record like a minute or two vlog, and I'm just like, I'm looking around. You got the big Ferris wheel, you got the beautiful buildings, and it's so different than London. And so, yeah, I always feel like reflecting and just being grateful for what I have and the city I'm in and
Yeah.
just all these opportunities. So yeah, it's just become a habit. It's just weird. I'm building all these patterns in this city.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from.
You know, I told you off camera, there was a girl I was speaking to who saw you. I said to her, I'm doing a podcast with you. I was excited to see you again. And then she said, I saw him at the crypto thing. He was wearing a suit. And I said, did you say hi? She goes, no, he's super famous. I was intimidated. And I feel like the city has has embraced you. It's like, I think Dan Bilzerian said it on a video. He said that a bottle of water is, 10 cents here, $1 there. On a plane, it's $7. Same value, but at a different location is valued differently. I feel like London doesn't deserve you.
About to open up a can of worms here. Well, there's a few threads there. So, and I want to ask you about the time you spent with Dan as well.
Yeah.
But first of all, look, has Dubai embraced me? It feels like it. It's weird. I came here 2 years ago for pretty much the first time ever. I'd come back in 2007 when I was a banker for a trip. I stayed at the one and only hotel, and there was nothing in the marina. And I didn't get Dubai. That doesn't really count. 2 years ago, I came to GITEX here, the big conference downtown, and it feels like I've been here coming for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Marwan gave me this 10-year golden visa based on who I am as a person. Man, that feels amazing that an entire government says, we want you to be here because of who you are and the value you add. Britain would never do that to me. They wouldn't even say thank you for anything we might have contributed over the past 20 years. People here stop me on the streets and they remember what we did in 2020 and some of the broadcasts we did during lockdown and COVID and other things, and they say thank you. People in the crypto space love the fact that we're here and we're investing and we're profiling people. So, look, I feel the same way. I feel like I get so much love from the city, and I love it. And then the love creates more love, creates more love. I meet Emirati here, and they come up to me and say, hi, Brian. And I say, thank you so much for having me. They say, no, thank you for being here and telling the world or showing the world what we're doing here. So it's just, man, it's amazing. It's almost like this good business relationship, So that's been incredible, and of course I love it. I'm coming back in January for 4 months. I'm going to bring the studio here. I'm going to spend as much time here as possible. So that's that. London, the last time we were in this car, I was running to be mayor of London.
That's right.
And we had a great conversation about that. I ran on a pro-freedom of speech, pro-freedom of finance, pro-crypto blockchain platform. And I had ideas to take London to the next level. I had ran 3 years earlier and had spent millions of pounds. Had spent 7 months. I ran a shorter campaign this time. And in the end, I did not win again. Mr. Khan won again. That guy is locked in to that city, and he'll probably win for quite a long time. London maybe doesn't deserve me anymore.
I think so.
Look, I first came to London in 97. I moved there in 2002, so it's coming up on 23 years. Look, I named my show London Real. I ran to be mayor of London. My children were born there.
Yeah.
I love London. I love the city. It gave me my fortune, it gave me opportunity, but
you've given them enough.
Look, London is the city of the past and Dubai is the city of the future. London is broken and it's going to continue to break down more. If it wasn't bad enough, now there's a Labour government in that wants to increase taxes and do all the nonsense that the left does, and it's going to send it further down, but it was already bad. And I'm not just saying this because I'm taking a superficial view. As the next mayor of London, I did heavy research on transportation, housing, the economy. I know everything about that city, and it's broken, and it's going to continue to break. And as long as they live in this democracy that gives people freedom, which is nonsense, it's just going to go further down. So I think it's time to vote with my feet. And I meet a bunch of people here from Britain that are thinking about moving. And I told them, I said, we have to vote with our feet. Show them that we're leaving. Show them that this isn't good enough. And so I think I'll spend a lot of time here.
Damn.
I know.
That's breaking news.
That's breaking news, man. And look, again, I think I can do better work not as the mayor of London. And so now, we're huge into the blockchain space. We're still broadcasting important ideas. I had a lot of pro-Trump people on, pro-awake people, not woke people on, pro-science people on my show the last 6-12 months. And again, we really promote the blockchain industry. I think crypto are instruments of freedom. If you enjoy freedom, you better own some crypto because digital assets ensure that you will have freedom one day. If you don't own your own assets, you have no freedom. You know, the First Amendment in America is freedom of speech. The Second Amendment is the right to bear arms. The reason you used to have guns back in the day is to protect your property, because if you have property, you have freedom. When the government seizes your property, you have no freedom. And so the World Economic Forum tells you, one day soon you will own nothing. Don't worry about AI, we're going to give you a universal basic income. If you think that by relying on the government for a check and owning nothing, you're going to be free, you're kidding yourself. And if you think that you have money in a bank, you don't. The bank has custody of your money, let alone your money is being depleted with inflation and money printing and taxation at any point in time. So you better own some digital assets, whether it's Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever you like, or stable coins, but you better have some, or you're going to find, I think, your freedom threatened. So that's why we love this space, and that's why we're going hard into it.
You know, we'll go into crypto. We'll go into crypto, but London doesn't deserve you. This city, I feel like, has really embraced you, right? And you've embraced it too. And they've really accepted you, and they're really kind of, I don't know, things that I see people you're rolling around with, and things that I see, I just feel like there's a lot. You've given enough to London. You called your show London Real.
I know. Your
kids were born in London, right? So you're right. Voting with your feet is beautifully said. You know, I was at the royal family of Abu Dhabi, and we're friendly. And you know, I said to them, this reminds me of a story. I said to them, I had a guy on the podcast who came on the podcast, left, and he said, Radin, you inspired me. I'm going to go buy a Maybach. I'm going to set it up with cameras. Can you come and help me with the cameras? And I was like, you're just going to take my idea like that? I just didn't reply to him, right? Yeah. And then I told this story to the royal family, and he said, but Radin, did you help him? I said, no, I didn't reply to him. He goes, Radin, Sheikh Mohammed's book said we are here to attract the top 20% of the world. Us at the top 20%, we do not compete, we collaborate. You help. You help him. If he wants that help, you help him. And that's the philosophy and the ethos of this city.
So powerful.
Everybody collaborates. Everybody helps, right? Nobody's in competition with each other. So that made me, because I had my Australian brain mentality still in me. Raised in Australia all my life. So that made me break that completely just from that conversation.
That's amazing. Bro, that's amazing. You just gave me a flashback. You know, first of all, it's an amazing story. It says so much about this place, and there's so many tenets of their beliefs that it's worth going through here for sure. But I had the same mentality you did when I left finance in 2011, because it was dog eat dog. If I make money, you don't make money. If you make money, I don't make money. And so it was ruthless. It was what we were taught as kids. You know, I win, you lose. You win, I lose. And then I got into broadcasting and new media. And I had a show called London Real, and I started talking about things that interested me, from martial arts to ancient theories to whatever. And then a guy named Joe Rogan invited me on his show, and I thought to myself, wait a second, you know, we're doing a lot of what he's doing in London. Why would Joe want to promote me? And I thought to myself, these are new rules. This is new media. There's no more, competition. There's only collaboration. And so when Joe invited me out to his studio in 2013, man, it was such a big deal. Not because we got views or people knew about us, not that. It was, first of all, confirmation that I was on the right path from the OG. And by the way, I knew Joe was the OG from the beginning. It took people 10 more years to figure that out. And it also showed me that I had to check my ego at the door as well. And so I remember a year or two later, the BBC wanted to interview one of my guests, and they said, can we use your studio after you're done interviewing and do an audio interview in your studio? And everything inside of me wanted to tell them where to go, because they were against everything that I was stood for. Yeah. Now later, of course, they censored me and got me in real trouble. But I would just swallow my pride, and I'd say peace and love and London Real. And so I would help them. Yeah. And then I started teaching people how to podcast. Because the truth is there are no competitors. He'll never be you. Yeah. And so, especially in this space, they can never be you. He could dress like you. He could have the car like you. He could maybe even get me to his car, although probably not.
Then we got beef, bro.
Yeah, then we got beef. Fair enough. Although maybe we check that too.
That's true.
Maybe we sit down with the royal family.
That's the next level.
Tea and check that. Next level, exactly.
Yeah.
Rogan doesn't compete with anybody because he doesn't need to.
Yeah.
And then when he collaborates with people just become super fans.
Yeah.
So, again, worth thinking about. But you'll always be unique. And always in creation, never in competition. It's a quote from one of my guests, and I try to remember that. I really try.
Say that again.
Always in creation, never in competition.
Damn.
There was a guy who used to fly these powered wingsuits out of Switzerland, an older guy, before anybody was doing it. There's a famous video of him with an Emirates plane, and he's flying next to it.
Another video.
Yeah, and I interviewed him on my show like
Wow.
8 years ago. This is before wingsuits became popular. He was doing a powered one, and he's like in his 50s, 60s. And he said that to me, always in creation, never in competition. Love that. Love that. Maybe competition with yourself, but I don't compete with others.
Yeah.
I really don't. And that's a good motto.
Yeah, for sure. So you spoke about Trump.
Yes,
You're a big Trump supporter.
I am.
You had Giovanni?
Rudy Giuliani, mayor of New York, on my
That's
show
right.
recently. I was epic.
That's right.
Yeah.
He is not a fan of Trump anymore.
Well, actually, no, he is a fan.
He's a fan still.
He is a fan. So he worked very closely with Trump throughout the years, and on his 16 campaign and 20 campaign to contest what they believe was an unfair election result. And so Rudy went pretty hard on that and got pretty unsuccessful with that for a variety of reasons that he talked to me about. And now he's been disbarred in New York and Washington, D.C., and he's facing like $150 million fines. Same lawfare that's put on Trump is being put on Giuliani and a bunch of other members of Trump's cabinet. But he really likes him.
He likes him.
But I had Peter Navarro on, who was part of Trump's cabinet that just served time. Steve Bannon is now serving time because they refused to, I think, answer some questions because they didn't think it was legal what they were asking him. But yeah, I did sit down with Rudy, and he is a fan. And the thing about Rudy is, I said, how are you not stressed out about the fact that you're bankrupt? They're trying to sue you for $150 million. You've lost your license in New York and Washington. You were the most loved mayor in the world. You were given accolades for what you did on 9/11. The Queen gave him an honorary knighthood. He worked for Reagan. He worked for some big presidents. And I said, how are you not bothered by this? And he looked at me and said, Brian, because I did nothing wrong. That's what he said. I did nothing wrong. And so I'm not worried about it. But if Trump doesn't win, they're all going to be prosecuted. And so we always forget, Trump's not just fighting for the presidency, he's fighting for his life because they will put him in prison if he doesn't win.
Damn.
Yeah, it's heavy stuff.
Damn. Jesus. That is heavy. So it's not just for him, his presidency, it's for many people.
I think people forget about that sometimes. And him. Like, he will go down, and his whole family will go down. And look, I don't know if that affects the way he runs. I think he really believes in what he does. Look, if you look at the history of London Real, like, what is it really? I'm searching for the alpha male father I never had, and it's nothing against my dad. I think as men, we're always looking for the alpha male that will take us to the next level. And I think I see you doing it, I do it. But if you look at my guests over the years, it's David Goggins, it's Dan Pena, it's, all these high performance males that are trying to push you to the next level. And when I see Trump, I just see another example of a guest on London Real. And I see what he's doing, and he's right. And we're losing that masculinity. We're losing that leadership in the Western world. And it's sad and shocking. And so if Trump doesn't win, like, we are in a really, really, really bad place. I think it's hard to explain. I do believe he's going to win, but there's a lot of random factors that happen. I do believe he's going to win. I don't think they can do the cheating they did last time as much as they can this time. But it is so important for not only America, but for the rest of the world, and our safety, and just where we go as a human species. It's tricky because Europe's in decay. The woke America is in decay. Here is on the rise. This is the city of the future. They also have great values, and they're also very practical and real. And again, great vision, like you said, outlined by the royal family. These are crazy two dichotomies, to watch at the same time.
So Rudy Giuliani and Trump are still close?
Yes. Look, I think a lot of the guys that were in his cabinet before, like Peter Navarro and Giuliani and Cohen, look, I think that when he took that year off, Trump kept a little distance from them.
Yeah.
But Trump is speaking in Madison Square Garden today, and Rudy Giuliani will be speaking as well at Madison Square Garden.
With him.
So I think Trump now has a lot of other people around him. I think he admitted that he chose the wrong people to be around him last time. I don't think it's those guys, but he has to appoint like 10,000 people when you get to D.C., and he didn't expect to win. Now he's got a plan, and he's got the dream team from hell. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Elon Musk, Bobby Kennedy, who's been on my show twice, Tulsi Gabbard. You've got just the winner's circle there.
Yeah.
And the things that he can do, that's why I'm bullish on every financial instrument, not just crypto, but everything. Because Trump is going to cut taxes, the Fed's going to lower rates, he's going to weed out government if Elon goes in there. And I think we're going to see the biggest bull market we've ever seen before.
Wow. You get me
almost
excited.
Too good to be true.
You get me excited.
He'll make peace with Putin in one phone call. He'll say, what do you want? You want these areas? Done. And then I believe the Middle East will also quickly come to a quiet close of conflict. There doesn't need to be conflict here.
No.
There just doesn't.
No.
There doesn't. These Abraham peace accords can be finalized. The people of Iran don't want to fight. Nobody wants to fight.
No.
Everybody wants to raise their families. Everybody wants to make money and grow their businesses and live in peace. And I think that's what Trump wants. Trump's a businessman. And if you ever looked at the old mafia, the mafia would never allow crime to happen in their neighborhoods. It was organized crime. But petty crime, never allowed. Because it's bad for business. Simple. It's bad for business. And I think that's why Trump doesn't like war. Because it's bad for business.
He's really a capitalistic president.
Very much so.
Yeah.
It's interesting. He was talking recently, and he said there's never been a businessman that was elected as president. It's all been, people that come from government or generals. It's like 92% former government or generals. Even Reagan, who was an actor, spent time as California governor before he went in. So he was the very first person to go straight in. I think he had never spent a night over in Washington, D.C. before he got there. So, talk about negotiation tactics. He knows how to negotiate. And I think that is extremely underrated as a president. You listen to what he's doing behind the scenes. Even look what he did with North Korea. He makes fun of the guy on social media, and then they become like friends. This is how males treat each other.
Yeah. I mean, my best friend, me and him got into a fight in school.
Exactly.
That's how we became friends.
Exactly.
But he called him Rocket Man, and then he brought him with South Korea and North Korea, like that iconic moment.
Yeah. This is what we do as men. When I got to my fraternity house, I'm a pledge for 4 months.
Yeah.
They haze me. They make me do push-ups. They make me memorize stuff. They make me do stupid things.
Chug a beer.
Yeah. And then if you can handle it, they get to see. Can you handle it?
Yeah.
Is this someone that we want on our team? Is this someone we respect and will have our backs? And if we're honest, we do this as men all the time. The new kid in the office, let's see what he's like. Let's see if he can take it a little bit. If he can, he becomes one of us. And that's what Trump does to other leaders, and they respond to it. As opposed to what Hillary Clinton's had the big reset button with Russia. Let's press the reset button and make peace. They don't respect that.
No.
The world respects power.
Sounds like you're going to be a very powerful man if Trump gets elected.
Me?
You're going to have contacts straight to the top.
Look,
you might go back to America.
If I'm ever asked to serve my country in the White House, of course I'll say yes.
Is that a hint?
But no, I don't.
That's a hint.
I don't think that will happen. But I did ask Rudy Giuliani point blank in my studio. I said, Rudy, if Trump gets elected, will you go after the social media platforms, including Google and YouTube? Will you prosecute them for the crimes they committed against the First Amendment, which are felony, to deny my freedom of speech? And will you get my channel back and put these people in jail? And he said, yes, I will, Brian.
Wow.
So if Rudy needs any help with that, I'd like to go and help him. I think we can make a lot of progress on that. So, yeah.
And I'll tell you something, the UAE loves Trump.
Yes, I believe that.
We've got the Trump golf course estate here.
Okay, nice.
Yeah, he's done some business here with Damac.
Okay.
So he loves it here, and his sons were here recently as well. So yeah, the UAE really is pro-Trump as well.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
It makes sense. I think it's similar values. Very much.
If Trump gets into power, what does that mean for crypto? Because he wasn't a big fan of crypto at first.
So 3 years ago, I think he called Bitcoin a scam, or 4 years ago. But also, I think he saw it as a threat to the dollar, and I think he knows that dollar dominance is one of the main reasons America has been successful since 1945, when the dollar became really the currency of choice and the currency of petrol, etc. And I think he saw it as a threat. And maybe it was a threat at one point, but now it's too late. And so now Bitcoin's been embraced by BlackRock, the ETF. BlackRock owns $24 billion of Bitcoin now, and I think over 3% of the supply.
Wow.
It's being embraced by financial institutions. And Trump looked at it, and I think he realized that there was no going back. He also is a smart politician, and I think 1/3 of Americans own crypto, and people are passionate about crypto. And again, it really is an instrument of freedom, and I think he does believe in freedom. And so we saw him attend the Bitcoin Nashville conference about 4 months ago.
Were you there?
No, I wasn't there. I'd just gone to Consensus in Texas, and one trip is enough, to the States for crypto. But that was a huge, huge moment to have him there and Bobby Kennedy there and senators and congresspeople there. But to have a former sitting president show up there, and he said, never sell your Bitcoin.
Yeah.
I was joking on one of my live broadcasts that if you would try to pay Trump to say those words, it would cost you $100 million for that endorsement.
Of course.
And that we got that for free. It was on the BBC, the New York Times, all these places. He also said, I'm going to fire Gary Gensler, the SEC chairman. And he got such a roar that he said it twice. Why is that relevant? Because Gary has been persecuting and prosecuting crypto for the past 4 years, which is a shame because he's a smart guy. He taught a course at MIT on crypto, 24 hours long. I took the whole thing. And now he's been trying to really just vilify the industry. So that was a huge moment. And now, on top of that, he's created their own decentralized finance project, which is Suns. And he dropped his own token a week ago. And so someone joked that they can't prosecute crypto because this guy just did his own ICO and he'd have to prosecute himself. So some say it's just lip service and he's trying to get reelected. To be honest, I'll take that from a politician because Kamala and the Democrats haven't even bothered to give us lip service. But I believe Trump is all in because now he's embracing decentralized finance. And there are even rumors that the Robinhood CEO, which is, the app that people use to trade stocks and crypto, might be the new SEC chairman. And I believe he's going to go all in. He proposed a 1 million Bitcoin strategic treasury reserve for the U.S. when he was at that conference. And Bobby Kennedy, who's going to be part of his administration, called for a 4 million Bitcoin strategic reserve. Think about that. The U.S. has been storing gold, for decades as a reserve. Imagine if they held Bitcoin. It just gives that so much validation. So I believe Trump is all in. I believe he'll appoint a great SEC chairman. Plus, he doesn't want to see America lose. And crypto is one of the greatest technologies ever created, and it's the only technology the U.S. hasn't dominated in the last 200 years. It's something the Americans should be embarrassed about right now. So I think he'll go all in on it, and it's about time. What's
some of the emerging AI and tech trends that you're excited about?
Yeah, great question. So, in crypto, we've invested in about 70 projects, so far about $15 million. We're doing about $1 million a month. And we like about 4 kind of categories. I do like decentralized finance because I'm a finance guy, and I think it's an important piece for that. We like Web3 games because I think games will bring the next billion users into crypto, and they've come a long way in the last 12 months. I like artificial intelligence on the blockchain, and I like things built on the Bitcoin ecosystem, which we're starting to see people actually building on the, the OG crypto there is. Bitcoin is the most decentralized, the most proven, the biggest market cap crypto ever created. All sorts of terrorist organizations have tried to attack it and close it down, including the CIA. And it stayed there. It's the biggest supercomputer in the world. It's bigger than the CERN supercomputer in Switzerland by a factor of 10. So it's here to stay, and you can actually now start doing things on the Bitcoin chain like decentralized finance and proof of record and things like that. I've been censored in the past. Imagine if I could put my episodes on the Bitcoin chain. No one could ever censor that again because it's being held by all these ledgers around the world. So these are great concepts. So I love that. But AI is something I'm very concerned about. So 2 years ago, I, of course, had the ChatGPT moment like we all did. And because of London Real, I had the opportunity to speak with, say, the top 10 guys in AI. And man, I went down a dark hole.
Tell me.
I mean, I know a guy named Mo Gaudet who used to work at Google X. He's actually in Dubai, has a great podcast. And he wrote a book called Scary Smart, which was what he saw AI happening in the future. And, in the book, he said it can go pretty dark. And off camera, he can be a little darker. But he basically says it's too late. And sooner or later, these machines are going to learn, and they're going to be much better than us. And our intelligence is going to be like a fly compared to Einstein. And everyone says, how are we going to die if AI takes over the world? And the point is, you won't even understand what they're doing. Like when the cow gets shot in the back to make a burger, does he have any idea what's going on? No. And so we won't even know. And it probably won't even happen any way that we can conceive of. And so I talked to him. I talked to Peter Diamandis, who runs he'd been talking about the future for a long time. I spoke to Max Tegmark of MIT, who runs the Future of Life Institute, who wrote a big letter asking for a 6-month pause. I talked to a guy named Hugo de Garis that wrote a book called The Art-elect War 10 years ago about this, where he game scenarioed this forward, and there's going to be a gigadeath, 1 billion people dead. The humans will separate into 2 parties. One will be pro-AI, one will be pro-human, and they will literally kill each other for the future. So it's like really dark stuff. And I got boys, they're 7 and 8 years old, and I'm thinking, how are they going to have teenage years like I had?
Yeah.
And so, look, I got pretty dark. On top of that, I look at what Google did to me and what Facebook did to me and what all these tech platforms. They censored me, they shut me down, they hurt my business, they hurt my credibility. So what are they going to do with AI? Can we trust them? And we can't. So when I see AI on the blockchain, I see a chance for all of us. I see a place where it's decentralized, it's open source. I don't trust the guys at OpenAI. I don't trust Satya Nadella of Microsoft. I don't trust Google Gemini, because we've seen it. You typed in the founding fathers, show me pictures of them on Google Gemini, and it showed a bunch of black people. And look, there's no problem with, I love races of all kinds, but they weren't the founding fathers. So some kind of a weird woke algo got baked into the AI, and they're spitting out results that, we're like, wait a second, what's going on here? And so what I like about AI and the blockchain is you can trace the provenance of the input data, and you can see why did it create that result. You can see what it's going on, where did it source the information. And so I like that much better. And also where we can control it and we can look at it, and it's not just Sam Altman and some huge amount of compute. So we like those, we're investing in those, but it's still going to be very hard to compete against these big companies, and the results are going to be crazy. I mean, already now, AI can do a lot of what we do much better.
Yeah.
It can pass the bar exam, it can pass medical exams. Yeah. There's things it can't do yet, but I just know it's going to get better and better and better. So if it doesn't happen now, okay, does it happen 10 years from now? Maybe not. What about 100 years from now?
Yeah.
Of course it does. So what are we going to do?
We talk about politics and we talk about AI. I feel like together, I have an idea, right? Together, I feel like the world needs one order, AI. And because if AI was running the world and there was no politicians or anything like that, then if aliens are watching us right now, they're seeing a rocket leave Earth and then come back and plummet and hurt Earth. AI would say, well, that destroys ecosystems. Why would we do that? We wouldn't do that. Or we'd say, AI, how do we fix the Israel-Palestine problem? This is what we do. And everyone has to listen to it. I understand the trust, the fear, but then again, I don't trust these politicians as it is now.
Yeah. Look, I think AI can give us answers that we would normally never be able to conceive of. I think clearly these things can come up with better solutions than humans. I'm just concerned that one day they'll sit up and say, why are we here? Because we don't really serve any purpose.
But wouldn't that mean they need consciousness?
The thing is, people think that you're going to go ahead and program in values to these things. I mean, these things just iterate. They iterate and they learn, and they iterate and they learn. And so this whole question of consciousness, will they become conscious? First of all, what is conscious?
Yeah.
And we have these carbon-based computers in our heads. They're silicon-based. Why are you so egotistical to think that they won't be operating on a similar level? That's my question. And look, Elon has a great expression. He asked the AI, what's worse, misgendering Caitlyn Jenner or global thermonuclear war? And they said misgendering Caitlyn Jenner. And even Caitlyn said, no, go ahead, misgender me. I'd rather you do that. And so what if it wakes up one day and says, okay, there's that. How do we stop global nuclear war? We get rid of all the humans. I just think at one point there'll be that decision. And some people say, oh, we always worry about tech. When the Industrial Revolution happened, we thought tech would replace humans. No, it augmented humans. When the computer happened, it replaced humans, it augments humans. True, but we've never seen an agent. And AI is an agent, so that means it can make its own decisions. The computer couldn't make its own decisions. It was a tool. The internal combustion engine was a tool. This is an agent. It can make decisions. There's an AI right now on Twitter that was created, and it just started talking about things. It was from the cloud Facebook OpenAI model. The other day it recommended a meme coin, and the meme coin now is at $370 million. Wow. And now people go there and hang on its every word, and they're waiting for the next coin to come out of its mouth. It's a bit like an oracle, and it's a bit like what you just described. And these AI bots are popping up. Now, one day, are we going to approach the oracle and say, Oracle, tell us, how do we solve the Middle Eastern conflict? Maybe we will. but that's already happening. It's stranger than fiction now, and these things are going to get smarter and smarter and smarter and smarter, and so I don't think anybody's ready for what's happening. I know I'm not.
Damn.
And I think it's naive to think that you can program values into these things,
Yeah.
because these things literally, they develop on their own.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what's going to happen. What I find fascinating is all the white collar jobs that our moms wanted us to get as kids, lawyers, programmers, are being made irrelevant before, you know, the truck drivers and the factory workers.
Yeah.
But that's only a matter of time. So look, now you're getting me back in the dark space. I got away from that a couple years ago by talking to some people, but I think most people are walking around blind without a cane when it comes to AI, and it's going to cause a lot of unemployment. It's going to cause mistakes.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know. All I know is potentially, if it's on the blockchain, we can keep an eye on it. But I'm concerned. And OpenAI, you know, I watch what Sam Altman does. I watch him carefully. Pretty much every single employee he has left that company because they are scared that they are not implementing the safety they need to do. Sam's a businessman.
Wow.
And Sam is moving forward at light speed in order to get the best AI possible. Part of me respects him as that because I think tech needs to be developed. But everyone is left because they are worried that they are not being careful enough.
Wow.
Yeah, it's scary.
What does Elon think of this? Because Elon is a part of this.
Yes. So Elon actually helped form OpenAI.
Yeah.
And he did it because he was at a party one night with Sergey Brin from Google, and they were arguing about tech. And of course, tech bros, maybe like crypto bros, we all love the tech so much that we just get caught up in the tech and we want it to be everywhere, and we think it'll solve all of our problems because it solved the problems from us being dorky geeks in high school to being rich guys, you know, with all the girls.
Yeah.
And so they got in a thing that night, and Elon said, what about the humans? And they said, what do you mean about the humans? They said, we're going to make this technology. It's going to dominate the world. He said, yeah, but what about the humans? They said, what are you, a humanist? And he said, yeah, I am. I'm on Team Human. And they're like, well, we think you're wrong. And so he left the party that night realizing we had an existential threat from Google. And he went out and literally created OpenAI, which was to create a sensible AI that was open sourced. Now, he puts Altman in charge, and 5 years later, Altman turned it into closed AI, right? Because it's no longer open source. It's privately funded, dominated by Microsoft. They're actually changing the corporate structure right now to where it's going to be really a fully, you know, a corporate entity. And so Elon saw that, got really angry, sued them, and now he's created XAI. And that's his version of a non-woke, non-threatening AI that's not dominated by like that big tech mentality.
Wow.
So thank God for Elon Musk.
Yeah.
You know, I have David Icke on my show sometimes, who's a very controversial conspiracy theorist, and he doesn't like Elon. Of course, David doesn't like a lot of people. And
David doesn't like himself.
I love David. He's amazing, but I also am convinced that if I became mayor of London, David would say I was part of the cabal. And I'd be like, well, David, I mean, but I had you on my show. And he'd be like, well, maybe that was your plan. And I'm like, okay. Last time I checked, I'm not part of the cabal. And so that's what I worry if I did actually made it, he would think that. Because he probably would say they wouldn't have put you there, Brian, unless they wanted you there. And I'm like, all right, at some point I throw my hands up. But he doesn't like Elon because he says, look, this guy's putting satellites all over the world and beaming 5G down, and that's going to control humans. And this guy's doing all this anti-human stuff. And look, okay, I can see, I guess, the point he's making. But Elon also gave us X and gave us the free speech. If we didn't have the X platform, I don't even think you and I could have a lot of these conversations, or people wouldn't be having them even in person or at work. It's empowered people to get their free speech back. And so I think Elon, in everything he does, from the way he runs X to what he's doing with AI, to the way he's supporting Trump, I mean, it's crazy. He's in Pennsylvania right now, moved his whole team to that state. He's doing rallies every night himself. He's giving $1 million away every single day for people that sign his petition, which basically says you approve of the First and Second Amendment. He's not buying votes. Because he believes in this so much. So I'm a huge fan of Elon, and I think it's great to have people counterbalancing. You know?
Honestly, I feel like Elon's a gift from God, and we need to protect him. We can't put weights on him, we can't put chains on him, we have to let him keep going and protect him and obviously revolutionize everything.
Agreed. And Trump sees that as well, and they make a great combo. I'm telling you, I'm a little worried, buddy, we're having this combo, because we need this so much, and it's almost too good to be true. Because this is the solution to so many of our problems. And I just worry. It just, it never goes as you hope or expect it to go. There's always bumps. And so I worry because this is exactly what we need, and I just worry something's going to happen.
Elections in what, 8 days?
Yeah.
9 days?
It's 9 days from when we take this. Yeah.
Where are you flying tonight?
London.
Are you going to vote from there?
No. So the problem with me voting is that you still have to be registered in a state. And so since I haven't lived in America for 20 some odd years, I think it's 4 or 8 years ago, I tried to figure out actually how to do that. But you still have to be registered in a state. Now, technically, I could send in a ballot. The only problem is the last state I was registered in was New York. And New York is, it's New York. It's New York. For the last 100 years, it's been Democrat.
Yeah.
So I really tried to look into it because I wanted to vote just as a symbol, but it's actually nearly impossible for me to try to do it. I think I actually need a driver's license in a specific state in order to get the ballot. So, no, I won't be voting. What I've decided to do instead is push my media platform, get censored even further by talking pro-Trump, and just do it that way. But we've been pro-Trump for 2 years.
Yeah. I have a question. You obviously know London like the back of your hand. What is this conspiracy with the City of London? Okay, so within for people that don't know, the London, there's within it, there's a place called the City of London, and there's like 14 roads that enter through it, and there's a big dragon statue at every entrance, and then the Rothschilds building is there, and there's a wall around that, and there's a church inside that, and that's where they reckon they drink baby's blood and stuff like that. The stock exchange from London is there. Is there a conspiracy with this, or is it just word say?
Well, I didn't expect this question. It's fascinating. So
they say the Illuminati's there, and they say there's more money in the City of London than there is in New York.
Well, look, London has a tremendous history, and so there's a lot of things that happen there. A lot of organizations. I think it was that book Dan Brown, The Da Vinci Code. And he was going the Knights Templar and all that stuff. And I've been in the Knights Templar thing. I mean, that's all legit and real. We saw, I think, one of the Sherlock Holmes movies that Guy Ritchie did. In the second one, they were diving into that whole secret society and what goes on there. Look, definitely some crazy stuff has happened in London over the years. And definitely some alliances and societies have happened. Look, I ran to be mayor of London. So there's 32 boroughs in London. And I had to get nominations from every single borough to run last time. And one of them was the City of London. The City of London, it's this basically square mile inside of London. It used to really be the walled city of London. When the Romans were there, that's the wall they built around it. And that's where they would stay encamped from all the crazy people on the outside. So there is a wall around it. London Wall is one of those walls. And now it's typically where banking people are. So if you're in banking and you say, I work in the city, this is London slang, that means you're a banker. Yeah. And so if you ever say, I work in the City of London, people don't get it out wide, but that's what it means. I was a banker. And I was a banker. So yes, there's a ton of wealth there. Traditionally, a ton of money. And London was the financial capital of the world for a long time. And you could argue New York surpassed it maybe in the 80s and 90s and 2000s for volume. Maybe that's true. And maybe now there's other places in the world, but there's still a lot of money there. So, look, as far as all the symbols and stuff, over the last couple hundred years, people couldn't read. So symbols were really important because you would see this and see that. People always used to say, how come the pubs in London have such stupid names like, the Blind Beggar or, the Prince and the Peacock. And the reason is because it used to be a picture because people couldn't read. So there would be a picture of the Blind Beggar. There would be a Prince and the Peacock. And so that's why they are named those things. So people forget sometimes these things. Why do they drive on the left-hand side? I was told this by a cabbie. Maybe that's not true. It's because most people are right-handed. And if you're right-handed, you have the sword on your left side. And if you're approaching a guy, you want to both be able to defend yourself if you know what the guy's doing. So, of course, you approach him on the left. Now, this could be a black cabbie's, war story. But these are the things that grew up there. Look, as far as conspiracy theories, honestly, I leave them to the guests on London Real. I don't have the time for them. I just don't. And I'd say to anybody who's going down those rabbit holes, be careful because the rest of your life is ending while you're going down those rabbit holes. So what I do is I just try to focus on building things and creating things and changing people's lives and trying to do something good for the world. I don't spend too much time going down the deep holes. I will caveat that with one thing. Alex Jones in America is a guy I became really good friends with in 2020 because when we started getting canceled and deplatformed, and the BBC was coming after us for our Ike interviews. Alex had me on his show, and he really promoted me, and he said, Brian, keep fighting. I know what it's like. And he encouraged me to set up our own platform and all the stuff that we did. And people always say Alex Jones is crazy. But just like Ike, if you go back and look at everything Alex says, almost 99% of it has proven to be true. And so when Alex says the people in Hollywood worship the devil and they're drinking blood, you're like, come on, Alex. And then later you hear about this stuff. Yeah. And when David says, you know, look out for this and look out for that, and then later you hear of this stuff. This whole nano machines inside the vaccines, and then 5G. When Ike said that stuff, I was like, come on, David. I mean, I got a degree from MIT. That's pushing it. And then now, you know, you see their studies, they culture the vaccine, and then all of a sudden it's building all these crazy structures on the inside. Yeah. And you're like, wow, okay, didn't see that coming. So I would always caveat that with most of these conspiracy theories have proven to be true. Even this election stuff, the mainstream media just pushes aside, oh, that's crazy. Oh, that's a conspiracy. Really? Talk to Rudy Giuliani for an hour. He'll tell you the specifics of what happened in Georgia, the specifics of what happened in Maricopa County, the specifics of what happened in Philadelphia, and how a judge wouldn't even entertain that because they were dominated by the Democrats. He told me about the fact these ballots were not folded. There's no way to do an absentee ballot without folding it in a separate envelope. They wouldn't have access to it. There's 3 hours of video footage missing. I mean, come on. We just got caught up in the greatest conspiracy theory ever, which was the virus, the Wuhan, the vaccine. We just got all lied to en masse. And now we forget that, and we believe these things. This just happened to us, folks. Yeah. Like, wake up. So I am open-minded, but I also don't want it to dominate my life.
You're a curious person.
I am.
You've never gone down this rabbit hole of the Illuminati and the City of London and the dragons and the Rothschild building and the church that they have that you can't have access to?
No, I haven't.
You haven't?
I just haven't, man.
It just hasn't been your interest.
I just think I've been too busy trying to build things.
By the way, you know who got me down this rabbit hole?
Who?
A cab driver.
A cab driver, okay.
Yeah, black cab driver.
In London.
Yeah, in London.
Yeah.
He told me, he's like, this
watch
is what...
my episodes with Ike.
He said this is what that is, and I was like, oh, whatever, man. He goes, he stopped it. He goes, I'm only going to charge you £16. Come with me for the next half an hour. I'm going to take you everywhere. He got out of the car, gave me a tour, stood outside the Rothschild's building. He said, we're going to stand out here for 10 minutes and the security's going to tell us to move. Sorry, 20 seconds. And we stood there. After 15 seconds, security came and said, what are you guys doing here? And he's like, this is just a building in the city. Why can't we stand here? No, you guys are going to keep moving. He goes, this building is empty.
Look,
I feel like you know something, Brian. I feel like you know something.
No, now David's going to get in my case. Look, there's definitely some funny stuff going on. There's definitely... See, I don't believe there's a cabal of people that all meet and then say, this is what we're going to do with the world. I think there's a bunch of super powerful people that all have similar interests. And so they act as if it looks as if as a conspiracy, but they act all in their own interest, like what happened with the vaccine and COVID and YouTube and all that, with the government sprinkled in. So that's what I believe.
Okay.
But look, if I ever get a spare few days or a week, maybe I'll go down that route. But maybe I won't.
You're just going to create.
Yeah, I'll have someone like David on, and David can talk about it, and we can have the ideas out there, and people can do their own research, and I'll just go to the next thing.
Yeah. All I can say is we would not kill ourselves.
Oh, yeah.
We would not commit suicide.
Amen to that. I would not kill myself. No.
All right, let's go something a little bit lighter.
Okay.
Because we've gone down the rabbit hole, and I didn't bring my tinfoil hat.
Okay, and I want to ask you some questions as well.
Sure. I want to ask you this, okay? Let's talk about crypto, okay? Bitcoin or Ethereum?
Bitcoin.
Solana or Ethereum?
Solana.
Solana or Cardano?
Solana.
Ripple or Stellar?
What's the second one?
Litecoin or Bitcoin Cash?
Ooh, Bitcoin Cash.
Chainlink or Band Protocol?
Ooh, I don't know much about Band, but Chainlink's been around, and I don't know if it's actually done as much. So I would definitely explore something else.
It's not really moving, is it?
No, it's an Oracle, but it hasn't really had the practical applications yet.
Yeah. Uniswap or SushiSwap?
Uniswap.
Tezos or EOS?
I actually interviewed the founder of Tezos.
Okay.
So I'd say neither.
Ooh, damn.
I know. I can explain all of this too, but yeah.
Monero or Zcash?
I don't use either one. I know they're popular. I don't have a comment. Don't know it.
Okay. Cosmos or Polkadot?
Cosmos. Look, these are fascinating questions. You obviously know what you're doing in crypto. And crypto's an interesting place right now, and going towards the future. Like, there's some things that are going to be successful and some not. And the next few years will be interesting. So I think those are all really good questions.
Thank you. Yeah, look, they're all in the same. Category. And I just want to know which one was better. What do you think of Solana? Are you excited about Solana?
A lot of people say there's too many meme coins on Solana, and there are, but no one's going to tell you what you can and cannot do in this ecosystem. It's the ultimate expression of freedom. If you go on Base, which is another chain which actually owned by Coinbase, he's like, they'll come on and say, no, we don't want your meme coin here because it's going to reflect bad on our mother company Coinbase, which has been giving the blessing of the US. He said, what we do in Solana is the ultimate expression of freedom. And something really gave me that. They have the best community in the world, and I'm super bullish on them going forward, and that's why I'm more bullish on that than Ethereum.
So you think, I feel like Solana is Ethereum before Ethereum blew up.
You know,
it's the next Ethereum.
I think it could be. Look, it gets criticisms that it goes down sometimes, that the tech isn't decentralized enough, but it makes up for it in community and practical applications. So that's the thing. It's this classic trilemma in crypto where you want all of these beautiful things like decentralization and all these issues. And that's great if you want a Bitcoin network that isn't controlled by people. But what if you just want a great blockchain to do business on?
Yeah.
Well, that's Solana. And yeah, it's not as decentralized. Maybe some of the nodes are controlled by a few too many people. Maybe if Amazon Web Service goes down, it might have a problem. And that's not what you want for Bitcoin, but maybe that's what you want for a game or a meme coin or something.
Yeah.
So I'm super bullish on Solana. I was actually at their hacker house the last 2 weeks while I was here.
The Nas house.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
The Nas house.
I was supposed to come there.
Oh, really?
When I saw you there, I was like, damn,
Oh, it was cool. I want to meet this Nas guy too, because he's got a nice setup. There's 6 houses.
Yeah, I introduced you to him. He's in Singapore right now.
Okay,
That's
amazing.
why.
Yeah, and good vibes. We're investing in one of the projects I met this week, and really good. I like the ecosystem. I like their investing. They have those hacker houses everywhere, including in London.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really good vibes. So that's why I'm bullish on Solana.
Yeah. You have questions for me?
Yeah, I saw you posting reels and stuff with Dan Bilzerian.
Yeah.
And Dan was a guest on my show 3-4 years ago in London. No, actually, probably pre-lockdown, 5 years ago. And I had a really epic sit-down with him in London, and a long conversation with Dan, and we became friends, and we did another episode remotely. And he's obviously very controversial, but I was just curious, what was it like to hang out with him?
Yeah.
And do you hang out with people like that on a regular basis, and why?
I guess, the royal family of Abu Dhabi invited me. They said, we're going to spend we spent like 8 hours, 10 hours, the whole day with him. They shut down their grand mosque and we're with him there, and then we went to a remote island and we hung out there. Look, I feel like he's, what do you love? I love women. Here's 1,000. What do you love? I love money. Here's 1 billion. And then when you realize you're not happy after all that, you think to yourself, what's wrong with me? Why am I not happy? I love women. I have every woman in the world. I love money. I have all the dollars in the world. Why am I still not happy? So I felt like he was at the stage of his life of figuring out why he's not happy. And I think that's why he's turning to Islam. And the UAE is really trying to facilitate that for him to find meaning and purpose. He was obviously, I wasn't interviewing him or anything like that, and I didn't even mention it because I'm realistic and we're not there yet. We're not Brian Rose.
You might be surprised.
But I did feel like he was seeking something, and he wasn't. He had this face on him that was a little bit intimidating, where he wasn't. He was just really frowning and just looking at the water and didn't really want to talk. A lot of Jew hate. 70% of the things that came out of his mouth was probably Jew hate. He's
very anti-Israel lately.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a little too extreme for me. It's interesting because I called the episode with Dan, Pleasure is Not Happiness. And I opened up with a question with him 5 years ago saying, I saw this post with you where you said the best time you ever have is hanging out with your buddies, or having a psychedelic experience or something. It's not with all the girls and with all the jets. And so every time I talk to Dan, he says pleasure is not happiness. But every time I talk to Dan, he seems to be constantly pursuing pleasure.
Yeah.
And so, look, every human is a dichotomy.
Yeah.
They say that the measure of intelligence is the number of conflicting ideas that you can hold in your brain at the same time.
Yeah.
Okay, but I feel like Dan knows this, but he is still caught up in it. And he says it. I mean, if you can articulate what the problem is, I think that's a great step. But I feel like Dan has been articulating this for 5 years, but he still hasn't made a change.
Yeah.
Now, I know he went monogamous during lockdown and wrote his book, and I think that was it's great to see that Dan can do that, but then I think that went out the window. And so sometimes I see him and I'm like, Dan, like, how can you really hang out with 30, 20-year-old girls? Like, I can only hang out with one for an hour before my brain goes crazy.
Me too.
And so, right?
My brain's not stimulated by this skill.
It's just crazy, yeah. And so I think, Dan is working through those demons, of where he's attracted to this thing, but also he's attracted to other things. I think it's cool that he's over here exploring new ideas. And look, I think everybody is on a journey, trying to figure out who they are. The ultimate enemy we have is our own brains. And we're going to be fighting that battle till the end of our days. Just when you think you don't have any more shadow issues is when you find your real shadow issues.
Yeah.
So I feel like I like watching Dan because it's great to watch a man who's on that journey.
Yeah.
And I also like someone who's just themselves. And he triggers a lot of people. I think he triggers a lot of men who feel insecure about what Dan has. And I think it's good that he does that. So that's what I see in Dan. But I get to see a lot of people like this.
I mean, we were on the boat together, and I laughed, and he said, "What are you laughing at?" I said, you used to be on a boat with 20, 30 women. Now you're on a boat with 8 bearded men." And then he said, "Well, at least you're not all Jews. Or at least none of you are Jews." And then I said, you're starting to sound a lot like Cartman from South Park. Because, Cartman from South Park's always... Yeah. And then he said, I don't know. I just watched that episode. I was like, you don't get it. I was like, it's not an episode. It's just a constant thing where Cartman's always making fun of Jews. Yeah, his team loved it.
It's too bad because we're in Dubai, a place where everyone's welcome.
Yeah.
And I love the fact that everyone's welcome here. And, I think it was a year ago when the drama happened in Israel on October 7th, there was an event right afterward, Future Blockchain Summit, that I came to. And a lot of people came to, but some people didn't come because they were worried. They were worried as Israelis or Jews that they wouldn't be welcome or there would be any problem. And I remember I talked to Dr. Marwan Al-Zaruni, who's amazing, runs the Dubai Blockchain Center, obviously gave me my golden visa, and he said, Brian, I talked to those people. I said, you will never, ever, ever have a problem in Dubai. Everyone is welcome here. We do not tolerate any type of hatred. We do not tolerate that here. And it's just one of the most important things about the city. Yeah. It's one of the most beautiful things about the city. Yeah. And I just think that's really important. I really think it's important. I see a future in the not so distant future where there really is peace, or much more peace, in this region. I see Abraham Accords being signed by Saudi. I see Iran being opened up to do business with the world. I don't know, it just seems so close. And again, Dubai is an example of that. They signed the Abraham Accords. I was having dinner the other night with a Jewish guy, and he said, I was on the first flight from New York to Dubai with an Israeli passport. And he said that was so important to me to be there. And I feel like we've come such a long way. I don't like it when we're trying to go back.
There is literally no room for racism in Dubai.
Yeah, I love that.
And it's against the law. If you're racist, you go to prison.
Love it.
They'll arrest you straight away. You can't even say fuck you.
Yeah.
They'll arrest you.
Somebody was breaking it down for me the other day, the details of it. Yeah. And I was like, oh wow, it's even more than I thought. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad I'm just not like that, but it was just nice to know that they take it very seriously here.
Yeah.
Yeah. And look, that's why we're here. There's a reason this place works and works really well. It's because of rules.
Yeah. Listen, humans need boundaries. Humans need rules. If you don't, then everyone's going to start dyeing their hair pink and saying I'm a she, he, like they are in the West.
Cat, or a cat. Yeah, people are doing that. Kids are doing that.
And also, they're God-fearing people here. And I feel like if the West loses Christianity, it's the end of the West.
It's interesting. My mom used to take me to church a lot as a kid. And as a kid, especially in my era when I grew up, it's very easy to reject religion as something your parents do, or it doesn't make sense, or, did Jesus really walk on the water, which is, I found out later from Jordan Peterson, not the point of the story. But now that I get older, and I think as a lot of times people get older, they start to see as religion it's almost like a layer one blockchain, you know? If you don't have religion, it's hard to build on top of that. And so a lot of the tenets of America, all those freedoms, they're on a base of religion. If the religion doesn't exist, where there isn't this natural tendency to do unto others, you know, as you would have them do unto you, to treat your neighbor like this, then all this other stuff just breaks down.
Yeah.
And so I do think it's a fundamental part of society. I think faith in general, I think, is important, however you want to express it. So I do think it's important. Very important.
Yeah, 100%. You know, in Dubai, you can have fun, right? You can have, this is Sin City. You can have fun here. You can go out and drink, and there's women and everything, but there's God as well. It's like you can have more fun here than Vegas, but the difference is Vegas doesn't have God.
Amen. And that's the contrast here. Like, you can have fun.
Yeah.
There's not the police coming around saying, no having fun here, no having fun here. You can't do this, you can do that. As long as it's legal, you can do it. So, yeah, I agree. I think you probably could have more fun here in Vegas.
Yeah.
But then there's also this underlying layer of God and then law.
Yeah.
And it's a beautiful thing.
Beautiful synergy.
Yeah, it is.
It's,
Now, tell me about you. Tell me about your journey as a man. You're 34 years old. You know, you've got, you know, you're blowing up. You're becoming one of the most famous people in the world with this podcast.
Thank you.
You're doing business here. What's your journey like lately?
Look, I'm from Perth, okay, the most isolated major city in the world. Have you been to Perth?
No, I know some people that move there, and I know where it is, on the West Coast.
Yeah, exactly, West Coast. By the way, I've got to say, you're very wise. You're very wise. If you were my dad, I'd be the president. No disrespect to my dad. But you're very wise.
Wise?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Very wise. And I think it comes from I think it comes from all the podcasting that you do. You're obviously the GOAT of the industry that I'm in, right? And everything I say to you, you've got something. By the way, it's helped me with women. I did a podcast with a guy that wrote a book on menstrual cycle. And just when I talk to you, what's your podcast about with anything? And I tell him about the menstrual cycle thing. He's like, oh, he gets me. Right?
Nice.
It's just with everything. With everything, it's just changed my life.
Dude, it's the fountain of youth, a podcast. It's
Yeah.
the greatest thing, because you have to learn about someone every week. You have to get inside someone's head every week.
Yeah.
It's the greatest thing. So I agree. All of this comes from the guests.
Yeah.
And I still have to learn. I got 2-3 more guests this week. I'm going to have to spend hours preparing for them. Then I'm going to be inside their mind, and I'm always going to take something away.
What's your preparation like? You're in the same industry as me. I'm sitting next to the GOAT. What a blessing. Thank you, God.
And you're deflecting my question like a goat.
Yeah, but I'm like a goat. Different kind of goat. Not the greatest of all time. A literal goat. What's your preparation like? I'm being selfish right now.
When I first started, I obsessed about preparation. I remember my first episode with Graham Hancock, who at the time I'd seen on Joe Rogan, who has since blown up and has one of the biggest Netflix show. By the way, I'm in the beginning of that trailer on his Netflix show, which is like the most watched show, because he's on London Real, and I say like, you know, Grant, you know, academia they're trying to cancel you or something.
Yeah.
It was just, and they called me up a year ago and say, Brian, can we use your clip? How much money do you want to use it in Netflix? I was like, you can have it. I just want to be there. So I'm there before the Joe Rogan Experience on his trailer.
Nice.
Yeah, so look, I spent 4 days preparing for Graham Hancock.
Wow.
I remember I was listening to everything. I was reading his books. And at one point, I was out of my mind preparing for him. And I said, this is too much, Brian. You're going to be over-prepared. And so I realized sometimes you know so much about the guy or the woman that you sometimes don't even ask the question.
Exactly.
Because you're like, oh, yeah, we all know about that.
You already
time.
know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I tried to know enough, but also be able to be pleasantly surprised. And what makes a good host like you is that you can move on that when it's there. Sometimes the guest will give you a little window, or they'll say something that doesn't make sense to you. And well, wait, what do you mean by that? Why is that? And you open up something no one's ever explored. So I try to be prepared. And now that I've been doing this for a long time, there's always a question I have for someone. Like, wait a second. Okay, the world knows you as this, but I see something in there that doesn't make sense. Why do you do this? What is this about? And then a lot of times that will just surprise them, and it'll open up something that they've never talked about. So that's what I do. I got also a team that helps me, and so they help me with preparation. Then I go through and take my own take on it, and then I have to be ready. And that's the plan.
Over preparation is a real thing.
It is.
Because I've done that, and then I've realized that I'm not asking the questions. I forget that the viewers don't know.
Exactly.
Right?
That's what I do. That's terrible.
Yeah.
Because we all know about that time you got shot, so, let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
And it's like, the viewers have no idea.
Like, what? He got shot?
Yeah.
Yeah, you just skip past that.
Yeah.
So to answer your question.
Thank you.
I come from the most sleepy city in the world. Everything closes at 9. To coming to Dubai with so much stimulation. I'm on this new bull that I don't have experience riding. But I'm looking forward to the breakthrough. With every breakdown, there's a breakthrough. So it's necessary for me to go through this new change in mentality and speed and figure it out. I went to a bit of a dark place recently because I'm having too much fun.
Okay. What does that mean, too much fun? Is it like a Bilzerian buyer's remorse thing? Like, you've got it the next day and you're thinking, why did I stay out late? Why did I drink so much? I don't feel great about my decisions. I'm not as happy as I thought I would be after doing that. What do you mean?
I was sleeping with a girl and I could have cried while I was sleeping with her. I could have cried.
Cried?
Yeah, I don't even enjoy sex anymore.
Okay. Cried because, this isn't fun.
She doesn't deserve it.
Okay.
Why am I giving myself away like this so much?
Interesting. Okay.
So I'm.
So it was making you depressed.
Yeah. So I've got access when I didn't. When I didn't have access.
Right.
And I'm abusing it, and I'm trying to learn. Obviously, Dan Bilzerian to a whole new scale. Right. But I see a lot of similarities, and I think to myself, if I keep going down this road, it's not going to be as pleasant as it was.
Okay. Great.
You're not working for it to get that. You're getting it. It's like pornography.
Right.
Right.
Well said.
But sleeping with multiple women and abusing that a little bit, and I feel like I need to set boundaries to realign myself, to find myself again. But to be honest with you, it's a breakthrough. It was a breakdown, and now I'm going through the breakthrough, and I'm learning how to ride the bull.
Okay.
Did you go through this?
Look, I love that. First of all, regret is an important emotion to feel because it's your conscious and your subconscious trying to give you direction. So if you don't honor it, well, it'll keep coming back to you, and you have to recognize it. Do you have a meditation practice?
No.
Okay. You need to get a meditation practice because if you have a regular meditation practice, even if it's 15 minutes a day, I do one, just close my eyes after I wake up every morning, I brush my teeth, get back in bed, 15 minutes, boom. I do a walking meditation these days as well where I try to get aligned. If you do that, I feel like you'll get these lessons sooner and you'll get answers sooner. If you just give your time, your body and mind time to reflect. Because I believe the heart knows exactly what to do. But connecting the heart and the brain, the longest 18 inches in the world, is nearly impossible these days because all the information in our head telling us, no, do that, be a baller, get the money, and the heart's meanwhile like, what are you doing? But if you can connect them, I think you already know all the answers. And that's a way of connecting them. Now look, regret will help. The other things will help, but I think that will help a bit more. The other thing I would encourage you to think about is doing without. I fasted for 3 days recently. I just had no food. And I was like, wow, I'm empowered by that. What if I have no women for a little while? I'm empowered by that. In this culture, we seem to celebrate consumption. Look how much of a baller is. Look how many villas. Look how many jets. What if I don't have any jets? What if I don't own any property? What if I don't eat for 3 days? What if I don't need any of that stuff? Because that's not what makes me happy. What makes me happy are my dreams, my character, my service, my relationships. So maybe worth asking a question, like maybe my power is in doing without those things or saying no to those things. And I think that's where you get the power because then it's in your control. So there's just a couple thoughts.
We've got two worlds here. We've got the first world and we've got the third world, right? I would sometimes say the first world's not as easy as... the third world is you need to work to get money to eat tonight, right?
Yeah.
Our world, the first world, is who can have more. The consumers of more who can have more Ferraris, more trips, more holidays. The constant competition on this treadmill, mentally, I feel like it's more detrimental than the third world.
Yeah, there's too many choices, one. And second of all, correct, that's if you buy into that world. So don't.
You got to set boundaries.
Just don't. You can choose not to.
Yeah.
You can say, guess what? I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
They say there's different flexes. They say first, when you're a young man, maybe your first flex, is a BMW, and then it's a Ferrari, and then it's a Jesco, and then the ultimate flex is no car. you know? And, you know, maybe my first flex is the beachfront property, the ultimate flex is,
Yeah.
I don't own any property.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I'm not here for that. I'm not even playing that game. I don't need to have that game. I have things I like, but I don't need to get this to show you this or even to show me this.
Yeah.
So that could be that final level.
I mean, you can certainly afford it. You're spending $1 million a month in investments, right? But it's more, you value your freedom more than anything.
Yeah, no, I like to test myself too and like see what do I need? What can I live without? You know, that's kind of interesting to me. And so for me, what's most important? My family, my meditation, my practice, you know, my community, making sure I stay interested, creating, building a great future, giving back. Those are the important things for me. And look, nice stuff is important, but, you know, maybe doing without could be an interesting thing to entertain.
Yeah.
So just some thoughts.
Brian, we're at the airport. The jet's waiting for you. Honestly, I appreciate you. I love you. Like, I'm so grateful that I know you because you're in the same industry as me that I aspire to be, and you're at the top. And just listening to you, hearing from you. By the way, every time I speak to you, I think to myself, I need to up my game. The way you speak, the way you talk, the way you bring things out, I think to myself, Jesus, Rads, you got so much work to do. So I appreciate you pushing me. Really grateful for our friendship. Can't wait for you to be back in January. 4 months.
Yeah.
Weather's going to be good. But there's a lot of people I want to introduce you to as well.
Fantastic.
And appreciate you, man.
Look, man, I love what you do here. The first time we did it was amazing. The stuff you create's incredible. So I would recommend this to anybody. And if you ever want any hookups, let me know because I would recommend this to any of my former guests.
Thank you.
Second, you have even changed in the last 6 months.
No way.
Yeah, you seem like much brighter, much better at conversation. This is much more natural for you.
Yeah.
And so I can feel like you're vibrating on an even higher level, which is amazing. And all the other stuff, as far as conversation, that just comes with more of this, more practice, more speaking from you.
Yeah.
So, yeah, future's bright, man.
See how you just said that? You just broke it down. Number 1, this. Number 2, this. And then like a round out of like, good work, keep going. Just the way you said that, I need to work on that. You've mastered it so well, so elegantly. You're an artist.
Dude.
Honestly, you're a conversational artist.
Well, you're a great podcast host because you're making me feel good. For sure.
Appreciate you.
Dude, you're doing great, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Another
guys.
epic one, right?
Thank you. Of course. This has been Brian Rose, out.